Well, come on, all of you big, strong men. Uncle Sam needs your help again. Got himself in a terrible jam way down yonder in Vietnam. Put down your books and pick up a gun. We're gonna have a whole lot of fun. And it's 1, 2, 3. What are we fighting for? Don't ask me, I don't give a damn. The next stop is Vietnam. And it's 5, 6, 7. Open up the pearly gates. Well, there ain't no time to wonder why. Whoopee, we're all gonna die.
The offer is appealing. See exotic Southeast Asia with your hometown Chamber of Commerce. My wife Irma Hawkins and I sign up, despite a twinge about the Korean airline we will fly.
Asiana Airlines. As we spread our new wings, we ascend to the sky, reaching ever higher altitudes, flying far above the world. Asiana, for a beautiful future.
Look how his nose is up in the air. Oh my God! Oh, it's an accident!
Oh, you're filming it too.
Oh my God!
Oh, no.
Oh my God!
Oh my God, you're filming it.
Oh my God!
On the 13-hour first leg of the 10-day, 17,000-mile journey, the yoga-loving Irma is eager to indulge her two spiritual passions, Eastern gods and shopping. Meanwhile, I dream fitfully, reliving that wrenching era in all of our lives, the Cold War years of U.S. military involvement in Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. 1961. South Vietnam's hapless pro-Western government struggles with an exploding challenge from communist Viet Cong guerrillas and their sponsors in North Vietnam. Just out of UCLA with the draft in mind, I joined the California National Guard. That means 6 months of active duty in the U.S. Army for basic training, then a 6-year commitment to reserve forces that could throw me into Indochina if war ever comes. The trouble in Indochina traces back to Napoleon III of France. In 1858, ostensibly to protect French Catholic missionaries, the emperor's forces invade Da Nang. By 1893, France is colonial master of Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. Life is soft for the overlords of French Indochina's rubber and tea plantations. But after France's fall to Hitler in 1940, Japan takes over the region. Ho Chi Minh, a founder of the local Communist Party, proclaims a Republic of Vietnam in Hanoi on September 2, 1945, VJ Day. President Harry S. Truman, aiming to restore France as a Western European bulwark against the Soviet Union, pays the bills for French recolonization of Vietnam. Ho Chi Minh retreats to the mountains for 9 years of warfare against Paris with Soviet and Chinese support. 1954. At Dien Bien Phu in northwest Vietnam, General Von Nguyen Giap's Viet Minh forces trap and besiege a French force. Despite airdropped supplies, the bastion falls to human wave assaults. With 11,000 captured, 2,300 dead at Dien Bien Phu, France says adieu to Indochina. Ho Chi Minh does not gain all of Vietnam. The 1954 Geneva Peace Conference divides the country at the 17th parallel. The two separate states are to be temporary, pending a Vietnam-wide election in 1956. That election is never held because Uncle Sam fears Uncle Ho would win. Ngo Dinh Diem becomes president of the new nation of South Vietnam. In 1959, Ho Chi Minh inaugurates a clandestine military trail and Viet Cong guerrilla attacks. President Eisenhower bequeaths Diem and the Vietnam problem to John F. Kennedy. Presidential sister-in-law Madame Ngo Dinh Nhu and the Diem family become increasingly dictatorial. And in 1963, Buddhist monk Thich Tree Quang sets himself aflame in protest. With Kennedy's implicit approval, Diem's generals stage a coup. Diem and his brother are assassinated. What follows is a series of coups, a parade of incompetent and sometimes corrupt leaders. Dung Van Min, Nguyen Can, Phan Kak Su, Nguyen Cao Ki, Nguyen Van Thieu. August 2nd, 1964. The U.S. Navy destroyer Maddox exchanges fire with North Vietnamese torpedo boats in the Gulf of Tonkin. 2 days later, a second destroyer fires at false radar images, but President Lyndon Johnson claims it was a second sea battle. Congress passes the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, authorizing military force. LBJ begins bombing the North, slowly escalating. By March 9, 1965, a 1st Marine Combat Unit is landing unopposed in South Vietnam. A member of our tour group is there.
I've been stationed in Okinawa with the 3rd Marine Division, and then when the war started, we did an amphibious landing at Da Nang. And we were the first major ground troops in there.
Johnson explores how to deploy many more combat troops. Anxiously, I watch his announcement on July 28, 1965. Will he call up reservists, or will he rely on the draft? The decision so fateful for millions of American men spares me.
I have concluded that it is not essential to order reserve units into service now.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning. It smells like victory.
As the American death toll mounts in futility toward an eventual 58,000, my Vietnam War is on the seething home front. A staff correspondent for Newsweek, I report on protest after protest. June 23, 1967. LBJ speaks at the Century Plaza Hotel in Los Angeles. Outside it was, "Hey, hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today?" The LAPD declares an unlawful assembly. Cops wade into the crowd of 10,000. A zealous policeman ignores my press credential and clubs me to the ground. In Washington on May Day 1971, I am again in the raging streets recording President Richard Nixon's arrests of thousands of demonstrators. October 1972, Hanoi releases 3 American POWs to U.S. peace groups for political reasons. As Newsweek's London bureau chief, I interview the freed pilots about their captivity on an airliner from Copenhagen to New York. 2 months later, hours after Prime Minister Olof Palme of Sweden publicly denounces Nixon's Christmas carpet bombing of Hanoi, Palme explains his actions to me in a Stockholm interview. Jane Fonda indiscreetly poses at an anti-aircraft gun in Hanoi, and I profile her and her then-husband, Tom Hayden, in the New York Times Magazine cover story. Hanoi Jane she remains to many bitter war veterans. American forces quit the war in 1973. Saigon, South Vietnam's capital, falls on April 30th, 1975. North Vietnamese tanks ram through the presidential palace gates. The U.S. sets up a tent camp for refugees at Camp Pendleton, California. I helped to find Newsweek Saigon Bureau Secretary Helene Lam and her family at the camp. The magazine gives Helene a job in L.A. Like many exiles, she remains unreconciled to the Hanoi regime. On a Newsweek team examining why the South lost, I questioned Nguyen Cao Ki and other key figures 10 years after the fall of Saigon. And that is the closest I ever come to the reality of the long Vietnam War. And then there is Cambodia, ancient land of Angkor Wat, an even more tragic story. Nixon secretly bombs the Ho Chi Minh Trail there. King Norodom Sihanouk resists U.S. policy. The CIA dumps him, installing right-wing General Lon Nol. Nol's army is beaten in 1975 by the scarf-wearing communist Khmer Rouge, led by Saloth Sar, who calls himself Pol Pot, renaming the country Democratic Kampuchea. Sealed off from the world, the mysterious Angka, the Big Brother hierarchy, decrees a return to the agrarian past. Phnom Penh, the capital, and other cities are forcibly emptied. Everyone must be a rice farmer. Suspected intellectuals, anyone wearing glasses, even workers restoring old temples, are executed. Many die of hunger, exhaustion. At the infamous Tuol Sleng prison, paranoid Khmer Rouge leaders torture and kill party comrades suspected of disloyalty. (1979) Pol Pot goes too far, seizing villages in Vietnam. Hanoi's crack troops respond with an invasion routing the Khmer Rouge in 2 weeks. After 2 million genocidal deaths in a nation of 8 million, what remains are dazed survivors, piles of skulls, mass graves. The killing fields. The Kingdom of Cambodia today is a nominally democratic nation of 14 million, about as big in territory as New Mexico. Sihanouk's bachelor son Norodom Sihamoni is king. Prime Minister Hun Sen, a one-time Khmer Rouge member, has been the real boss since 1984. 1 million landmines still threaten life and limb, a figure down from 10 million thanks to Princess Diana's Halo Trust and other mine-destroying charities. Currently on trial for crimes against humanity, former Khmer Rouge head of state Khieu Samphan and senior official Nuon Chea, or Brother Number 2. A third defendant died. Prosecution of Ieng Sirit, Sister Phaya, was dismissed because of dementia. Comrade Dutch, who ran Tuol Sleng, is serving a 35-year sentence. In Cambodia and Vietnam, factories produce clothing sold by low-end and high-end stores worldwide. Cambodia remains impoverished, with unrest in the low-wage factories, corrupt officials, a border squabble with Thailand. One hope for the nation: tourism rose 25% last year to 3.5 million visitors, including 173,000 Americans. A dismaying arrival near midnight in humid Phnom Penh, where 7 in our group of 29 are told that Asiana has left our suitcases in Seoul. They don't catch up for 24 sweaty hours.
My father was killed in 1976 when I was 7 years. My youngest brother, only 1 year old, right? And second one, my elder brother, 14 years, he worked very hard at the rifle, and then he died, right? In 1977. Right, after he got sick, around 2 months later, no doctor, no health center, no hospital. And my youngest sister died when she was 2 years old. Right, under my house, she died on the hammock. Right, she got the dengue fever.
Our hotel sleep in the Mekong River capital is 3 hours, if that. Thanks to an Asiana flight change, we have a 4 o'clock wake-up call for the hop to Siem Reap, gateway city to the Angkor temples. In pre-dawn darkness, we see a few Phnom Penh ministries, not the nearby killing fields or the popular Tuol Sleng prison. Over the floating villages on the Great Tonle Sap Lake, we descend to Siem Reap and some charmingly fractured English at the airport. We apologies, work on progress. The first lotus flowers and our red bus, which one could call the Khmer Rouge. By Cambodian standards, the touristy city of 300,000 is prosperous, and the Soma Devi Hotel is comfortable. The powerful Khmer Empire of the 9th to 15th centuries built vast cities, hundreds of Hindu and Mahayana Buddhist temples. Our starter temple is Ba Kong, a shrine to the Hindu god Shiva built by King Indravarman in the late 800s. Today's Cambodians are mostly Theravada Buddhists who go in for smaller temples. In rice-growing Ba Kong village, we have a breezy outdoor lunch, then stroll the dusty streets for a glimpse of Cambodian village life. No indoor plumbing, but TV in every stilt house. "19 miles north, the pink sandstone temple of Bantiye Shre, Shrine of the Women, built in 967 AD to honor war triumphs and Hanuman, the monkey god. Angkor Wat, largest religious monument on the planet. The World Heritage Site that 1 million international visitors a year come to the steamy Mekong jungle to witness.
Central gate over here, actually used only for the king family. And 2 more further, nearby the central tower, used for minister on the both sides. And 2 more at the end over here, for common people.
A moat 2 football fields wide, once filled with crocodiles, guards 12th century Angkor Wat, which means city temple. The sandstone central tower soars 669 feet measured from the ground, far higher than Notre Dame in Paris or the Washington Monument. The shape suggests a lotus bud, or a lingam, Hindu symbol of royal phallic power. The Hindu god King Suryavarman II ordained nearly a mile of bronze reliefs recording his victories. Gods churn the mythical sea of milk to create life on earth. Equally plentiful are apsaras, the celestial nymphs inspiring Cambodian classical dance. When Siamese from Ayutthaya conquered the Khmers in 1431, they kidnapped the lovely dancers and adopted their style for Thailand. Apsaras perform for us at the hotel. The tropical heat can wilt even the most intrepid travelers, but I somehow managed the steep climb to the summit of Angkor Wat. There I find the temple monkeys and a small shrine to Buddha, who here again has claimed Hindu territory. While King John of England was signing the Magna Carta in 1215, the Khmer Buddhist king Jayavarman VII constructed Angkor Thom, Great City. It was supporting 1 million people when London had 30,000. And at the center of Angkor Thom, the astounding Bayon Temple. Bayon's four-sided towers present 216 stone faces with the same enigmatic smile. They depict both King Jayavarman and the enlightened soul he identified himself with, the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, Lord of the world. Back at the bus, the ever-present hawkers crying, "Hello, $1." Next stop, past a musical group of landmine amputees, Top Rome, Old Brahma, a ruin dramatically showing how the dense jungle reclaimed Angkor for centuries until a French Indiana Jones uncovered its glories for the West in 1860. Outside Top Rome's gate, Irma the shopper haggles for Khmer scarves as holiday gifts and makes another impulse buy.
I really enjoyed Cambodia myself. Just the whole idea of those ruins being built 1,000 years ago, still existing today, and people being able to enjoy them just really impressed me quite a bit. And the fact that it still seemed relatively primitive in Cambodia, so I felt like I was going back in time. So.
On the way to the airport, a sobering stop at a Buddhist shrine to local victims of the Khmer Rouge, their souls prayed for by saffron-robed monks. Of hundreds of temple workers in the Angkor area, only 2 survived. Online to fly to the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. Visa rules require passports to be valid for at least another 6 months. 2 in our group are stuck at the ticket counter on that issue, even though they thought they had fixed the problem in advance with the tour company.
We ordered new passports. We sent the information with the new passport numbers to the tour company several, I would say 6 to 7 weeks in advance. Chamber Explorations did not update the list of passport numbers for the visa, so the old passport numbers for 2 of us were still on the form. We got to the airport and were told that the numbers did not match their list, so we were not able to fly out. People got on the phone and started making phone calls to the president of Chamber Explorations. We barely made the flight.
And what is your opinion of the bureaucrats that did this?
I think they're incompetent, I think they're disorderly and disorganized, and I would never, ever, ever in my life use them again.
Ho Chi Minh City, the in-your-face name the war victors gave Saigon. Everybody still calls Vietnam's biggest city Saigon. We land at now peaceful Tan Son Nhut, which was the main U.S. airbase for the war.
Well, come on and let's welcome Bob Hope. I'm very happy to be here at Tan Son Nhut, Southeast Asia's biggest rocket base. Mostly incoming.
Land of the pink lotus flower, Vietnam is about the size of Italy. President Trung Ton Sang, head of state, gets to meet with President Obama. Prime Minister Nguyen Thanh Dung picks provincial governors. The actual number one is Communist Party Secretary Nguyen Phu Trong. He's got the army. Though the economy has slowed lately, it's in relatively good shape. Vietnam is the world's largest rice exporter. Hours behind schedule in the rain, darkness looming, we travel 30 miles, or 49 clicks in U.S. military lingo, northwest of Saigon to the Cu Chi Tunnels. The complex of connected jungle tunnels was a hiding place for communist soldiers, a jump-off point for the Tet Offensive in 1968, a draw for tourists now.
Địa đạo đó thì chúng ta cũng bây giờ như vậy là cái số mà cỡ vào khoảng 3-4 giờ chiều đó là chúng tôi phải nằm úp mặt xuống đất rồi để cho nó có đủ oxygen, đảm bảo cho cái vui chơi và nghỉ.
Thun, our guide, leads us through the jungle. He points out a concealed ventilation hole for the tunnels, a B-52 bomb crater, an American Sheridan tank disabled by a mine in 1970, booby traps built to impale Yanks with cruel spikes.
We cannot see the Chinese string, so when they hit em trực để trực diễn hả chứ không ai đi người đó. No, that's the way. Đi mình. Wow, excellent.
Braving claustrophobia, we disappear underground like the VC, old Victor Charlie.
Not that bad.
Like here.
I'm talking about I crawl, to tell you the truth. Yeah.
From Cu Chi, we go into glittering modern Saigon for the night.
Good morning, Vietnam! Well, thank you, Roosevelt. What's the weather like out there? It's hot. Damn hot. Real hot. Well, can you tell me what it feels like? Fool, what is hot? I told you again. Were you born on the sun? It's damn hot. What do you think it's going to be like tonight? It's going to be hot and wet. That's nice if you're with a lady, but it ain't no good if you're in the jungle.
Welcome to Saigon. Welcome to Saigon. Are you ready?
First thing we notice, Vietnam has 48 million motorbikes and scooters. The 185% sales tax on cars is one reason the air-fouling two-wheelers carry commuters and entire families. Notre Dame Cathedral, dedicated by the French in 1887, is the setting for romantic wedding photos, and not just for predominantly Buddhist Vietnam's Catholic minority, whose loyalty is still doubted by the government. Across the square, the Central Post Office, a 19th century French architectural gem designed by the builder of the Eiffel Tower. Looking for the former U.S. Embassy? Washington tore down that symbol of retreat when diplomatic relations were normalized in 1995, replacing it with the Saigon Consulate. The presidential palace of the former South Vietnam, renamed Reunification Palace and preserved much as it was during the 16-year war with the North. Curious school children and tourists share the historic site where LBJ and Nixon made state visits.
Ah, beautiful. Okay.
Xây dựng trong vòng 4 năm, tôi nói 8 năm, tôi nói
This is the office room for the president. All of you to know him. The chair, the furniture, the painting. The painting just show his hometown, Nguyễn Văn Thiệu hometown in Phan Rang by the beach.
South Vietnam's presidents lived lavishly, with a movie theater and on the roof an Air Force Huey for quick getaways. Down in the bunker, maps of the war's progress. A chart notes some 542,000 U.S. service members in South Vietnam in 1968. In all, some 2 million Americans served in the war zone. Well, Tam Biet, goodbye, Reunification Palace, and with apologies to Bob Hope, thanks for the memories. We're bound for a shop-up at a lacquerware workshop where some of us buy the chinoiserie. In 1986 hard times, the Communist Party of Vietnam scrapped socialist economics, allowing capitalism while keeping tight political control.
I don't really see that the communism is evident. It's very much looks like free enterprise country, just like the U.S. or Canada.
The country we have now is set, which is in 1802.
Through busy Saigon, viewing out the bus window, neighborhoods such as Cho Lan, Chinatown, where my friend Helene Lam lived.
I can see where they're going to be up there like China in another 10 years. I mean, they're going great guns. They have a great work ethic. Great work ethic. Much more so than the Americans do.
Speeding south toward the Mekong Delta, we experienced the rice-growing countryside and some traditional music.
Again. 1, 2, 3.
First, lunch at a roadside restaurant. As we manipulate the chopsticks, I think the waiters are yelling to the kitchen in Vietnamese, "Hold the poodle ribeye and the brochette of Siamese cat." But when they serve the local elephant ear fish, head and all, I still cringe.
Okay, 2 wings.
From its source in Tibet, the Mekong River flows 2,730 miles, 400 miles longer than the Mississippi, through Chinese Yunnan, Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam. We reach the Mekong at the delta port of My Tho and embark on the immense water highway of Southeast Asia. Irma has suffered a dizziness condition on water voyages since a 2007 cruise to Alaska. She stays ashore. The Mekong tourist boat steers for the island of Ben Tre, 31 miles or 50 clicks upstream from the South China Sea. The Vietnamese and Chinese have been at loggerheads for thousands of years. They fought a 3-month war in 1979, so Vietnam, refusing to call its bordering waters the South China Sea, officially calls it the East Sea. Tropical Ben Tre entertains tourists at a coconut candy factory.
This is a one-horse town, dude. I think she wants you on the other side to balance the weight.
We ride in a horse cart to a snake farm, snake being a favorite local dish, and dare each other to hold a writhing serpent. This is like a Monty Python skit, only with a real python.
It's like a pair of shoes.
Facebook is right.
Take a look at me. I will show you I will do the demonstration.
Sampans queue up to paddle the Americans on mazy side channels of the Mekong. Lending the boatman a clumsy hand with an oar, I lapse again into thinking about the war years. Naval Lieutenant John Kerry commanded a swift boat in these Viet Cong-infiltrated Delta channels. I covered Kerry's 2004 presidential campaign for USA Today. In my reverie, I am battling the wily Charlie too.
Riders of the storm, into this house we're born, into this world we're thrown.
Okay, just wait, please, wait, patient.
Along the road back to Saigon, family graves dot the rice fields.
Welcome to Saigon. Are you ready?
A night on the town on our own. We strolled past the Colonial City Hall and into the Rex Hotel. Here the Pentagon hosted the 5 o'clock Follies, the daily war briefing for increasingly skeptical journalists. The space where this happened now has the best dance music in Saigon. Another hangout for war-weary correspondents was the bar of the Caravel Hotel, next to the 1897 French Opera House. Drinking a toast at the graceful old Continental, which had the most popular reporters' bar of them all, Irma and I can almost believe we are in Paris. Bygones are bygones for government-owned Vietnam Airlines, which takes us to the capital on an American jet. In 2 hours, we fly the 723-mile distance that took the Communist Party 30 years to cover. Quan Kiem Lake, near Hanoi's Old Quarter. First impressions of the one-time enemy capital: the streets have funny names and the music sounds like cats meowing. In fact, the Vietnamese word for cat is meow. Yet here at Lakeside is a comforting touch of France, a public pissoir. Air pollution in the city of 6.4 million has Irma too donning protection as we sip Singapore Tiger beers at an outdoor cafe. Irma loses no time buying jade in the Old Quarter.
It could be a simple little anything.
Korean tourists file out of buses and line up with us for one of Hanoi's headline attractions, the traditional water puppet theater. Beside a war memorial, a line of cyclos, pedal cabs, waits to take us slowly around the teeming, chaotic old quarter, colonial style. My driver tells me his name, Tuk. Here, the traditional conical na-long rice farmer hats are far outnumbered by motorbike helmets. But still, there's an indefinable air of oriental mystery, a sense of dark alley intrigue out of Graham Greene and film noir.
Forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown. Just the traffic, the scooters and the negotiating and the way that they cooperate so well with one another. And I always thought the horn beeping was, you know, an angry motorist, and instead what you're seeing is it's their form of communication to let people know where they are and what they're doing. So that really surprised me, and the fact that, you know, I haven't seen any accidents.
One thing that surprised me was the lack of military. Having grown up during the Vietnam War era and participated in protests for sending our young people over here, in my mind, I still thought there would be a lot of military here and a lot of police, and there aren't.
Oh, the military is a presence, all right. In our hotel room, a late-night replay of last September 2nd's Independence Day parade, where Saigon is about getting rich, Hanoi is about politics and power. Those marchers were right here at the Ba Dinh Square Mausoleum of Ho Chi Minh, who died in 1969 at age 79. Ho is not on the usual public display when we drop by. He is in Moscow for his annual winter touch-up by the expert embalmers who have preserved Lenin's body there since 1924. Xi briefs us on history and displays the card marking him as one of the mere 2 million Communist Party members who control 92 million Vietnamese. In the mausoleum complex, the Presidential Palace, built in 1887 for French Indochina's colonial governors. When Ho beat the French, he lived here for just 12 days before switching to more modest quarters. Ho had 3 cars, including a Soviet ZIS limousine. His favorite, ironically enough, was a French Peugeot. By contrast, President Nguyen Van Thieu used this Mercedes down in Saigon. Across a peaceful pond, the native-style stilt house Ho occupied for his last 12 years, gift of a mountain ethnic minority group. Nearby, the one-pillar pagoda, built by a king in 1049 to thank Buddha for giving him a male heir after girls by 15 wives.
I'm loving the old city. I'm just loving the hustle and bustle and seeing the way of life of people. Enjoyed the rickshaw ride yesterday and the puppet show. I feel very vibrant here.
That is hardly what American POWs could say during the grim years they spent at Hoa Lo Prison, nicknamed the Hanoi Hilton.
Lieutenant Commander John Sidney McCain.
May I know who is your father? Yes, his name is Admiral
John McCain.
The prison was much bigger during the war, before the government sold the back end to Singapore developers for office and condo towers. The French built their blandly named Central House in 1896 to hold Vietnamese rebels, often shackled, sometimes guillotined. Today, the atmosphere is almost cuddly. The once dreaded lockup is on every tour itinerary. The government shows visitors a propaganda video claiming it treated the American prisoners well.
Phi công đúng có mặt hiện thân quả đó, ngắn dài khác nhau, nhưng chắc chắn họ đều cảm nhận được chính sách nhân đạo của nhà nước Việt Nam.
However, signaling with his eyelids in a televised 1966 interview, prisoner Jeremiah Denton bravely tells the world in Morse code, T-O-R-T-U-R-E. Nowadays, there's an actual Hilton hotel in Hanoi, carefully named the Hanoi Opera House Hilton. Hanoi's landmark Temple of Literature, dedicated to Confucius in 1070 by Emperor Li Tantong, a backdrop today for college graduation photos. The sad fact that only 47% of Vietnam's four-year college graduates manage to find a job does not detract from the joy of these attractive young Vietnamese.
The Vietnamese people are very warm people. Their demeanor is very calm, and being Buddhist is part of that. You know, they learn inner peace, and they really just want to be themselves in the world.
Well, dinner at the Bang Lang restaurant before the group splits up, most choosing an optional excursion, while some are to stay in Hanoi. The excursionists bust down to the seacoast to board a junk for 2 days and a night, cruising spectacular Ha Long Bay. The eerie limestone karst formations seem right out of a classical Chinese print. In Hanoi, meanwhile, Irma hits the ATM for a last day of carefree shopping. For my part, I take a 6-mile walk around the city, starting with the U.S. Embassy. Shades of 1975, the building appears to have a helicopter pad on top, just in case. From the embassy, the walk downtown is through tacky commercial districts alive with traffic, karaoke parlors, buildings narrow because land is so expensive, third world nests of utility wires, the family wash hung out to dry. At the railroad station, several departures a day on the 36-hour run down to Saigon. Tickets range from $38 for a hard seat, no air conditioning, to $85 for a deluxe air-conditioned compartment. Passing the French St. Joseph's Church, set on an elegant Parisian-style plaza, the roundabout route takes me back past Hoan Kiem Lake. The locals perform their morning Tai Chi and other spiritually renewing practices. Central Hanoi has nicer parts, just a stone's throw from the Hanoi Hilton prison. Luxury dealerships, chic boutiques, five-star hotels, the well-kept French colonial villa of the Australian ambassador. Near a bellicose war statue is Truk Bak Lake, where the downed John McCain landed by parachute in 1967. Back through the government district with Communist Party headquarters and the flags of Vietnam and Namibia linked for a visit by leaders of the Southwest African nation. At a flower shop, workers prepare the daily tributes adorning the tomb of Ho Chi Minh. And on that patriotic note, our group packs up for a red-eye to Seoul. As White House correspondent for Newsday, the Long Island Daily, I had a back seat on Air Force One for President George H.W. Bush's 12-day swing through Australia, Singapore, Korea, and Japan in 1992. As George and Barbara Bush present a wreath at South Korea's War Memorial, that's me on the right in the red scarf, and now on the far left. From here, the entourage will go to the executive Blue House so Bush can sign something with President No Tae-woo. 21 years later, all those Samsungs, Hyundais, and Kias have made Seoul much more prosperous. The capital on the Han River gleams with new construction. On the bus is our best tour guide of the whole trip. Beneath sacred Inwon Mountain, the Blue House is still there, but tourists get barely a peek and must settle for a museum video. In frigid winds out of red North Korea, the free 4-hour Asiana City tour stops at the 16th century Jogye Buddhist temple, a good spot for pictures and for hugging a tree that supposedly restores youth. Worth a try anyway. Reunited with Tom and Leslie Lyons of Palm Springs, who left the tour to visit relatives in Da Nang, we lunched, courtesy of the airline, on the national dishes bulgogi and kimchi at the Hotel Capitol. Some last-minute shopping in the overly westernized Itaewon boutique and nightlife district, and our crowded 8 days abroad end, leaving us to ponder what we all learned on the trip. What I learned is that big doses of Asian religion have more side effects than Viagra. When I woke up this morning, I had turned into a novice Buddhist monk. Next summer, I'm doing an internship with His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, transformed by this tour and by yet another figure from the Vietnam War. We all remember Napalm Girl, Pham Thi Kim Phuc, 9 years old, naked and badly burned after a U.S. jet strike on a temple. Now living in Toronto, she recently illustrated to Dutch TV the forward-looking attitude we observed everywhere on our trip.
I thank God that I learned to forgive. When I learn to forgive, my heart is healed. And so, for me, from the bottom of my heart, I cannot change a history, but with love, we can heal the future.
That was then, this is now, a profoundly Asian philosophy. It is a worldview that explains why we all received such a warm reception as Americans, despite our nation's failures on the shores of the timeless Mekong those 40-odd years ago. I have seen the path to enlightenment and peace, and I know you will join me on that path. Namaste.
người con dương pi nè ai giờ lang lóng trò song con dương pi nè ai giờ lang lóng trò song sông plei ai từ phong lục ai từ lóng đi kề sông plei ai từ phong lục ai từ lóng đi kề người nhom mô pi nè lục ai mi vay từ tuôn tê nhom mô pi nè lục ai mi vay từ tuôn tê miền ta gì kê lục ai chung cái com sàn miền ta gì kê lục ai chung cái com sàn